I really hate all this damn responsibility. There must be an easier way, someone who can take that damn burden off me. Everything was so much easier when I was still a child. It is not rare that younger people nowadays get terms like grow up already thrown at them in heated arguments. The topic is age-old and has been of interest in all societies worldwide. And even the most primitive cultures have initiation rites where people ascend into the ranks of adulthood. But what does growing up actually mean nowadays, and how does it relate to self-improvement? Let us find out. First, we can observe that we live in a society full of people who do not want to accept personal responsibility. We live in a society full of mental children of all ages that refuse any responsibility. When people experience problems, it is someone else's fault, and the state has to intervene, or the friends are to blame, or the neighbors are too loud. It is never them. It is always someone else that has to change and not them. And we are used to that style of thinking from being a child, where any problem could be solved by calling for the parents or teachers or other person of responsibility. Nowadays, it is more the state than any other person. Today, we have a problem. We miss a phase in life where young people are introduced to the real world, where they have to deal with difficulty and problems on their own. And there are many old stories, for example, and fairy tales on exactly that topic. Stories and fairy tales were teaching metaphors back then, and they are still to a degree today. And as an example, there's often a biblical story, for example, where some prince or knight has to set out to fight a dragon or save a princess all by himself. And all those stories can be interpreted as metaphors for the process of growing up and taking on responsibility without relying on the help of someone else, and acknowledging that one has an influence on the problems they face. That is a major breakthrough, because that is the moment you can actually start improving. Before that, it is always someone else who is to blame, and when someone else is to blame and someone else has a responsibility, they are also those people with the capability to change the world. And if that is not you, then you have a problem. And there is a rather famous psychologist, Wayne Dyer, who liked to compare people with frogs and eagles. Frogs are a metaphor for people who do not take up responsibility, and they are living on the floor and have a very limited field of view and experience, and they complain all the time. They represent victims that seek the solutions to problems they face outside of themselves. They are mental children. They are people who are incapable of accepting responsibility. For them, it is absolutely clear that someone else has the solution to the problems they face, and someone else has to change and take action, but not them. They're always screaming for someone else without ever thinking that it might be themselves, that it might be their responsibility, or that they at least play a part. And the other kind of person is an eagle, and eagles represent people who like to take responsibility. They live way up in the air and take on responsibility for their actions and seek problems in themselves and not in the world around them. They take great care of their offspring, for example, while the frogs just lay their eggs in a lake and then they are on their own, and society or the environment has to take care of them. The eagle takes the responsibility and cares for their offspring. The eagle is a person with responsibility, and whoever thinks that they have responsibility will act accordingly. Whoever denies responsibility will act accordingly too, and will damage the world around them, while those people who think they have responsibility will not do that. And now everyone has to decide for themselves if they want to be a frog or if they want to be an eagle. But let us now come to the most important point. People nowadays rarely learn to take personal responsibility. Mentally, they are still in the mindset of a child. When they were young, it was obviously fine to ask the parents for help, but now they ask the state or other people or neighbors. They blame everyone but themselves. At work, their boss is to blame for the shitty situation at work. In school, it's their teachers and professors who are to blame. And when they are at home, it's their spouse who creates all the problems for themselves. They simply cannot behave, and whatever. They don't even think that they and their interpretation of the world might be to blame. It doesn't arise in their mind that that is an option. And that is an extremely limiting belief that makes us a victim incapable of improving. Whenever we think someone else is to blame, we can't change that. They have to change, and we are pretty much the victim of whatever decision they take. Sure, it seems like an easy solution, since we don't have to do anything and the other person has to do all the work. But in a sense, it is useless, because we limit ourselves. In the end, all the hindrances to self-improvement are mind-made, and we think that we don't have, and if we think we don't have responsibility, then that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and we can't change for the better. Once you take on responsibility, however, you can start changing and improving yourself. People who never leave the victim mindset behind are incapable of improving. For them, society has to change, everything else has to change, the environment has to change, but not them. Okay, and that is pretty much it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoy this style of content, feel free to leave it a thumbs up, so I know to produce more of this style of content in the future. However, if you feel like I missed something, also let me know in the comment section, so that other people, and especially I, can benefit from your wisdom. Oh, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. But until then, I wish you a pleasant day, and goodbye.